of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tistero. Chapter 73, Operation Tree Captain, Part 4. Panic was not a foreign emotion to Yagi Toshinori. He'd experienced it many, many times, and now with Shouta passed out and cradled in the safety of his arms, those usually creamy cheeks and unhealthy pinkish hue, he was facing it again. Gently holding him close, his neon blue eyes regarding the bags he was carrying, he also registered that the other was running hot. Much hotter than usual. He needed to get him back home, and if needs be, he could send for his private doctor to attend him there. The rational part of his mind was telling him that the other had only faltered due to heat exhaustion. The rest of him, however, was starting to worry to the point that he was approximately 3 seconds away from sprinting to the nearest hospital.
Don't be dense, Toshinori. Mirai is at the cafe. He'll know what to do.
He muttered to himself, his wary gaze looking around. This area was quiet, mostly deserted. Before he gently secured the man, his car was locked up. By tucking him close, the bags he'd been saddled with similarly lashed to his hands, jumped. It'd be quicker and less conspicuous to get him home this way, and if this was heat stroke, then getting him somewhere cool, somewhere he could be easily hydrated, was the best course of actions, wasn't it? He'd think on what the other had said later. He could have been delirious. He could have been hallucinating. He could have been, dare he hope, serious. But that didn't matter right now. No, he needed to get Shouta home. Swallowing thickly, his eyes trained on the direction that he needed to head, Toshinori tried his best not to get his hopes up. However, as he held the sleeper close to him, he couldn't help but mutter a quiet little prayer filled with longing to any deity that might listen. If he was allowed to love this man, if it were possible for him to love him in return, then what more could he ask for? What more could he want? Surprisingly, you are such a moron, Aizawa Shouta, you know that? When he woke up at home from the scent and sound of things, his body laying on a futon in his apartment's primary living room, his boys weren't laughing at him at all. Didn't I tell you that I'd kick your ass if you didn't look after yourself, you self-sacrificing lunatic? In fact, it was quite the opposite. Humming, he was wondering if he was still out of it. He could have sworn that he heard Naoki and Takeo talking to him just now. Shit, he'd not slept through Friday night and not met them at the train station on Saturday morning, had he? God fucking damn it, why had he fallen asleep in the first place? Had he been sleeping? No, something else had happened, hadn't it? Shit, he'd been at the store. Sako Atsuhiro had been there with Iwata. He'd bought everything on the lists he made. Tomoko's list, too. It had been hot. So hot. Too hot. Toshinori. He couldn't see anything. He needed to sit up. If you try to sit up, you will be shoved back down, you crazy Natsuoga, you hear me? Now that was Dami, wasn't it? Then he was home. He'd been brought home. He must have. What? He tried, his tone a little sluggish. Shit. Wait. He managed. Damn, his throat was parched, but as though whomever was with him could read his mind, a straw bumped against his lips. Latching onto it, he took a few long, slow drags before releasing it with a sigh. Flicks. He breathed before, with a mortified groan, he slumped into his futon. Please don't tell me that I made a complete fool of myself. Again, in front of Toshinori. He found himself saying, his limbs still quivering a little, as he started coming back to himself. Wow, that was the Mori shit. I was sure that you wouldn't say that he did, right, senpai? Fuck!
Shouta-kun, I'm just glad that you're alright.
He's not alright. He's an idiot, Toshinori-ni-san. And yes, that was definitely Takeo, the brat. What the fuck were you doing rushing around like that in this heat, you moron?
What the fuck are you doing sass-talking your oldest brother, huh?
He tried to chuckle.
If I remember right, I knocked you on your ass pretty hard the last time we sparred, Takeo-chan.
You just wait until you're feeling better. The man he couldn't see because of the damp cloth so wonderfully plastered across his face fumbled. Just because your Dan ranking is currently higher than mine doesn't mean anything, you know? Chuckling, his right hand reaching out for him, He sighed when it was clasped, his smile a little wobbly.
What are you doing here?
He asked, his voice strained and raspy with emotion.
Don't tell me that I missed you coming.
This was meant to be a surprise for you, Aizawa. Sasaki-san, Yagi-san, and our other little brothers managed to get us here today, so we can have the whole weekend together. Sucking in a breath, his left hand grasped by Seiji's larger one. Naoki's resting on his forearm, while Tadeo copied the motion on his other side. He let out a shuddery breath. You've picked some pretty epic people to join our family, you know, the blonde physiotherapist trainee murmured softly, those fingers squeezing his. Now, come on. Try and get a little more rest and leave everything else to us, okay? Being treated like an invalid was not his idea of fun.
Oh, yeah, sure. Trying to get up, show. I dare you.
Because sure, he'd been an idiot, he acknowledged that, but he was fine. His temperature was within normal parameters. Tadeo had given him the all glare, and if he ate or drank any more, he was pretty sure that he'd explode.
Really?
And sure, it was nice to be fawned over. However, it was nearly 1600, which meant that his study group were on the way, and yes, the boys closing the cafe without telling him was fine, but he'd still need to make them something to eat, wouldn't he?
Aizawa Shouta, I can tell you this because I love you,
Seiji stated from where he was re-soaking the cloth that was in the process of encountering his brow once more.
Naoki can and will bind you into a cocoon and force the issue if you're not careful,
he told him.
Don't lie back down. He urged, you're still a little too warm for my liking, and the nail doesn't want you up and about until your shaking completely stops,
he reminded before reapplying the admittedly soothing compress back over his eyes.
You're lucky that it's only heat exhaustion and not full-blown heat stroke.
He huffed, the tone of his voice communicating just how peeved he was. Shit. He didn't want to upset anyone, and yet as he lay here in the blissful cool and calming quiet of his living room, he couldn't help but feel...
What?
Useless. He didn't like it. And worse still, all of the others had definitely headed down to the cafe to do the tasks he should be doing. Sure, Nami and Homer could whip up some things, however feeding everyone was his job. Looking out for them was also his duty, his pleasure, his desire. That was the whole reason why he'd bought this cafe and worked so hard to make it a success. The last thing he wanted was to be a burden.
What if I, promise to take it easy? I won't cook anything too complicated, alright, as that.
Someone who was stopping them all from having fun. You can go back downstairs in half an hour, my god! The bro hero in training got in after a long-suffering sigh. He could almost feel the teen's dark eyes rolling as he lay there like a lump, like a ruminating goo of for nothing. Of all days he could have pushed himself too far. Why today? Would it kill you to let us look after you for a change?
That's not that I'm not grateful,
he replied, his limbs itching to get him back on his feet and moving around.
Or that I don't trust you guys to see to things. I just... You're my mother hen, that's what you are.
The silver-eyed man grunted.
Please try to focus on relaxing, alright?
He advised.
Because if you even think of overexerting yourself, young man, I'll have freaking All Might carry you back up here and tell him to sit on you.
What? Ma, say, something tells me that he'd like that, eh, Shoni?
I don't know what you mean.
He tried to deny, his face eating up again.
Oh, but hey, look, I am starting to feel tired. Would have thought.
He hastily added as the pair snickered. He could feel them leaning on his futon. He could sense the teasing energy rolling off of them. You're totally crushing on him, aren't you?
Ooh, Toshinori-ni has a certain ring to it, don't you think?
Damn it! It kind of really did, didn't it? Shit! Nabi wasn't sure how or why he'd been the one put in charge in Sho's hopefully very short-lived absence. However, as the second longest resident of the cafe, he knew that he had to step in.
Okay,
he began.
We don't want to overwhelm him. You all know what he's like when it comes to having things for himself,
he told the room at large, the group nodding. So we'll put the presents on the study table. There were gift tags and fine liners already on there for you to use. He furthered, just make sure you leave at least 7 for the kids, okay? If they can't write one for him, then we'll never hear the end of it. You got it? Luckily, there were still plenty of sandwiches to go around, plus the various pickles, and better still, since she knew that the big guy was coming by with the brothers, Tomoko had put over a dozen muffins, cupcakes, and scones to one side. She'd also restocked the lemonade and fired up the rice cookers so that they'd have plenty of onigiri to go with the cold yakisoba he'd made with Sho before he'd sent the man out on errands. Errands that had only gone and made him sick. God! He nearly burst a blood vessel when Tomura's Ji-san landed on the apartment complex's courtyard. His expression panicked and the eatery owner slumped in his arms. It would have been almost funny to see the great and powerful All Might sporting canvas bags like some harried housewife. Hilarious, in fact. If it wasn't for the man he couldn't have adored more if he tried, just hanging there, his body limp and unresponsive. Flashback. Leaving the cat enclosure with a yawn and a stretch, Dabi walked past the tables and booths while casting a critical eye over them. He'd never been a slob when it came to cleaning, but now that he thought about it, Sho and his habits were really rubbing off on him. He liked to see the tables glinting. He enjoyed watching the glittered linoleum sparkle. He felt proud when the crazy nods of old guy praised him and ruffled his hair. Sure, it was a little childish, but watching the Smalls, it really hit home just how little childhood he'd actually had. When his new older brothers had gone back to respective homes after Marai's legal team solidified him as Aizawa Dabi, he would tell Shouta, Tomura, and Hitoshi who he'd been, who his biological father was, and together, he was sure that they could find a way to help his siblings, and to help his mother, too. Blinking out of his thoughts at the blur of motion he'd picked up in his peripheral vision, it took him a second or two to realize just what the fuck he was seeing. Shoo! He moved before he realized what he was doing, and the bell jangling probably too loudly in his wake, he was outside, his eyes narrowed, and sneaker-clad feet skidding up the hulking blonde who'd been walking towards him. What's happened? He asked, his worry spiking as he heard the bell jangle a few more times behind him. Holy shit! He heard someone, Takeo, yelp, and soon he was crowded around Toshinori with 4 other people. Oi, oi, hand them over, hello! Nissan, calm down, he's... I know who he is! The brunette snipped those golden eyes seething. Now give him here. Shit, Tada, he's burnt himself out again. Say, you good? Watching, he momentarily registered the flash of hurt spiking the number one's features as the broad brunette scooped the unconscious man up, those eyes flicking to him. Where does he keep his first aid kits? He asked whilst the silver-eyed blonde and his older twin brother swooped in to appraise the eatery owner. Upstairs in the kitchenette, the cupboard next to the fridge in the living room. He managed his form a little stupefied, and just like that, the 3 were marching off, leaving him, All Might, and Naoki standing there like the spare parts they were. Hey, the bark-skinned youth said, those hands patting his bicep and that of the distressed sun-kissed bro. Don't let Takeyo's attitude get to you, alright? He's just as protective as Shoni, but... well, let's just say he gets mad instead of getting upset. Empathy has never been his forte when he's stressed either, he said. Come on, let's go in, he urged, his eyes casting around at the mostly quiet area, his shoulders bunching a little as he scurried back to the Noranako's entrance. Sighing, he went to do the same when... I used to like wouldn't be intruding. Balking, his teeth gritting slightly, Dabi found himself grabbing the hand of the man his father had tried to train him to beat, to surpass, no matter the cost, and pulled him along with a huff. Shouta needs you, he said, his eyes purposefully fixed on the cafe as Mirai opened the door for them. And your family now, Ji-san, he stated, his body relaxing a little when those fingers flexed around his and returned the gesture. So you can't let that guy or anyone else chase you off, alright? End of flashback. Getting upstairs, he found himself looking at the scene, and instead of becoming pensive and wondering what the fuck he should do to resolve the situation that had just occurred outside, he actually found himself relaxing. I'm such a heel, aren't I? Man. Shouta was laid out flat, his skin looked a healthier hue, and Seiji was working in tandem with Tadeo to cool him down, whilst Takeo stood before All Might, his expression sheepish. I am sorry, and talk about making a shitty first impression, huh? Then, in a move that completely wiped every shred of hurt he'd seen painted on the oldest bro's face, the brunette grinned at him fiercely. I'm a hothead, and even though Shouta has been trying to get me to use my words for years, it is something I'm still working on, a lot. So please, Toshinori ni? I hope you won't hold my pig-headedness against me and forgive my, rashness. The last thing I'd want to do is upset someone whom my oldest brother thinks so highly of. His face lights up when he talks about you, you know?
He added before.
So, can we hug it out, big guy? What? Now that's what I'm talking about!
Smothering a laugh with his hand, Dobby took in the image of the big log bear hugging the grinning brunette before looking back to the man who'd brought them all together. Something told him that if he was awake and aware of what was happening, he'd be pretty elated right now.